Hello, everyone. It's Charlton, and I want to do the very best I can to tell you about this. It's an Article 32 hearing. It's a preliminary hearing. I don't understand military justice that well, but as I understand it, to determine whether or not it should proceed to a full trial. And even just after we're reading brief portions of this New York Times article about it, it seems as though both sides, including the Navy SEAL who's being accused, believe it's going to proceed to that. The guy's name is Edward Gallagher, Eddie Gallagher. He's a 19-year veteran of the Navy, Navy SEAL, of Navy SEAL Team 7. I'm just learning some of this as I was reading more and more about it because there's a lot to the story. And to me, I'm just going to give my opinions at the very end. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It doesn't. Some of the things he's being accused of: served 8 tours overseas and in combat. I don't know if it was all in Iraq or what. The main incident that he's being accused of is in Mosul, Iraq, where he was serving alongside Iraqi forces, and a 15-year-old boy, they approximate his age, who's an ISIS fighter, was wounded in an airstrike, and some soldiers are claiming that he executed him, basically, to give you the short version of it. And there's other incidents, too, that he's being accused of. He has 4 criminal counts against him, the most serious being premeditated murder. So, but 8 tours of overseas and combat, After his most recent tour, he was nominated top platoon leader of SEAL Team 7. There's only 8 Navy SEAL teams, as I understand it. I just looked it up, So that's no small thing. And he was nominated for the Navy Silver Star, which is the 3rd highest medal in the military, I believe. So I'm going to go through this as best I can. There's a couple different articles. The Navy Times goes through it. If you read just a quick NBC article or something like that, because it just doesn't give you the full story. And when I first read it, it was only when I read the Navy Times that I learned he was, served 8 tours of duty, which I'll tell you, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't to me, what he's being accused of. And I don't know. The wars and I have no experience with this, none, 0. But it's a bloody thing, and what's being described, it doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't. So Edward Gallagher, and his family cannot square with what he's being accused of with the person they know. They just don't. They say they don't believe it. Okay. The Navy has charged Chief Gallagher with premeditated murder, attempted murder, and nearly a dozen other offenses, including obstruction of justice and bringing discredit upon the armed forces. If he's convicted, he could spend the rest of his life in prison. Chief Gallagher denies all the charges. The case has sent waves through the secretive world of the SEALs, who prefer to operate behind the headlines in an atmosphere of silent professionalism. The chief's arrest has also shaken his family, who cannot square the list of war crimes with the sailor they have long known. This is not who Eddie is. His wife, Andrea Gallagher, said, his name is Eddie Gallagher, if I didn't say that already, said in an interview, he's a lifesaver. He's the guy who runs into the burning building when other people are running out. In a 2-day preliminary hearing at the Naval Base in San Diego that concluded Thursday, prosecutors presented accounts from several other SEALs and Chief Gallagher's platoon describing his behavior as reckless and bloodthirsty. And I'll continue on. I'm not going to read the entire New York Times piece, but the other Navy SEALs didn't testify themselves. And they may have to, I assume, in a future trial, but only one special investigator spoke for them on their behalf, basically gave their account of things through him, and they did that because of these individuals didn't want to testify for safety reasons. In fact, they are identified by their initials because you will end up on basically a kill list for ISIS, and but also because of for fear of self-incrimination, and that's in the reports, that they could say something that may incriminate themselves. And there's plenty. When you hear the special investigator and the prosecutor's version of things, it's one thing, and then you hear his defense counsel does definitely break it apart, and you begin to question the version that's being presented by the prosecution against this individual, Eddie Gallagher. So again, let me continue. Prosecutors presented accounts from several other SEALs and Chief Gallagher's platoon describing his behavior as reckless and bloodthirsty. They said he fired into civilian crowds, gunned down a girl walking along a riverbank and an old man carrying a water jug, and threatened to kill fellow SEALs if they reported his actions. Some platoon members were so distraught by the chief's actions, investigators said, that they tampered with his sniper rifle to make it less accurate and fired warning shots to scare away civilians before the chief had a chance to shoot them. They said they spent more time protecting civilians than they did fighting ISIS. Special Agent Joe Warpinski of the Naval Criminal Investigative Service told the military court. That's the individual, that's the criminal investigator who basically testified on behalf of other Navy SEALs who claimed he did some of these things. And if I could, I'm just going to speak for, one of the, like, for instance, they said they tampered with his his sniper rifle. So it would be intentionally off so that if he shot at what they claim civilians, he wouldn't kill them. But he was the most experienced sniper in the group. He is a 19-year veteran. He was by far the most experienced, and his defense counsel was basically saying, you're telling me that a sniper of that caliber wouldn't know that his own weapon was off? And it is a little bit, ludicrous, the thought of that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And again, lots of things that don't make a lot of sense to me. In defense of the individual, Eddie Gallagher. Chief Gallagher sat in the courtroom in dress uniform during the hearing, his face deeply creased and tanned from years of combat. He did not testify. His lawyer, Philip Stackhouse, said the charges were baseless. He said the only evidence that the chief had killed anyone came from accounts offered by a few SEALs who were disgruntled because they could not meet their leaders' demanding standards. Basically, the defense's claims, Gallagher's claims, is that there's, I think, 3, maybe 4 other Navy SEALs that were under his command that are just disgruntled, SEALs that he commanded, that basically they think he was too tough on them. That's what he's claiming to some extent. And, I think some of the things on the edges of this story, there's probably some truth to. There's evidence of him posing with, I think, the 15-year-old boy after the incident, with his hunting knife, and the boy is dead by then, and claiming, I got him with my hunting knife, and him texting that to other SEALmen. In fact, I think one of the SEALmen said, dude, careful texting this stuff, and but he still claims that he didn't kill the boy, and the other Navy SEALs claim that he did. Let me just quickly kind of paraphrase on the situation what it was. There was an airstrike that severely injured the 15-year-old. It's approximated his age as 15-year-old ISIS fighter. And he was brought to, after speaking to like an Iraqi journalist, he was brought by the Iraqi forces. The Navy SEALs were fighting alongside of Iraqi forces in Mosul. I think it's in May of 2017. It's fairly recently. So he's brought to the Navy SEALsmen, who are all medics, I believe. He's a medic. Eddie Gallagher is. He's trained in this. And he's a Navy a hospital corpsman, something like that, as well as being a sniper and a SEAL. So the boy is brought to the Navy SEAL medics, and one of them is working on him, and that's when Gallagher supposedly approaches. But then he leaves momentarily and then returns. And according to the Navy SEAL who was originally working on the boy and continued to work on the boy, Gallagher just approaches and stabs him in the neck, and then stabs him in the body too, according to that Navy SEAL. And I think there's 3 witnesses to this, I believe, maybe more. And supposedly there's video leading up to right to the event before he kills him. And then for some reason, there's no video of him actually killing him. And then there's the photos of him afterward posing with the boy's head in it, the 15-year-old boy, ISIS fighter, and his head, deceased, and him with his hunting knife saying, "I got him with my hunting knife." But according to Gallagher and his defense attorney, he didn't testify. He was actually trying to save the boy's life, and he claims that he was giving him a crike, which is like an insertion into your trachea if you can't breathe, to open an air passage to help you breathe, to save your life. The accounts are that he stabbed him in the body. Before I continue on, and I'll read through it, basically the thing that doesn't make sense to me is somebody who's done 8 tours of duty, overseas and in combat, in Iraq, maybe Afghanistan too, I'm not sure. Why would he if he was this kind of person that just indiscriminately killed and executed the enemy, even, 15-year-old ISIS fighter, this is the only incident that's really being reported, other than, accounts of him shooting at an old man. I don't even think, we know who this old man is or this girl. There's no evidence of that other than somebody's version or story about it. Why would he just walk up right in front of everybody, in broad daylight, right out in front of everybody, and kill him, stab him to death, then take pictures of himself with the dead body and text it to people? It makes no sense to me. It really does. And there's video of it, but it stops right before he's actually killing the person. In 9 years. If that's the kind of person he was, there would be many, many stories of that kind of incident, in my opinion, over the course of 8 tours of duty. It just makes no sense, and obviously it's extremely regrettable that he's taking pictures of a 15-year-old ISIS fighter, teen, who's dead, and texting it to other soldiers and sort of bragging about it. But the odds are that, he either was just, and that's not good. And I'm sure he regrets that greatly. But this is, it's war, and it's just, we have no idea. If we're going to do this to people who serve 8 tours of duty, I don't know, man. I just don't know that we could ever win anything. But he's probably just being whatever. That's like and it sucks they're joking about the death of, but it's the enemy, even though it's a 15-year-old boy, and they're just screwing around, But the odds of him actually killing that boy, I just have a very hard time believing that. Right in front of everybody, he just walks up and, while they're working on him and just to help save him, and stabs him and kills him. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So let me continue reading and then pick it up more as we go. The son of a West Point graduate and career Army officer, Chief Gallagher enlisted in the Navy as a medic in 1999, deployed to Iraq, attached to a Marine infantry unit. Then he decided to become a SEAL. It was one of the few Navy medics ever to complete the Marines' demanding Scout Sniper School. He finished his SEAL training in 2004. His combination of skills put him in high demand. He deployed frequently with different teams, steadily advanced in rank, and built a record studded with awards for exemplary conduct and valor, braving fire to kill enemies and save friends in Iraq and Afghanistan. His 8th deployment from February to September 2017 was in Mosul, Iraq. Some of the SEALs who served under him told investigators that at first they were excited to be led by someone with Chief Gallagher's reputation, but they soon started to see him as unhinged. He fired his rifle about 10 times as often as other snipers, they said, even at times when there seemed to be no targets. That may be a little overzealous, but is that really a reason for somebody to be charged for premeditated murder and aggravated murder? They're actually, I think prosecutors are wanting to bring the charges that involve the old man, or carrying water and the girl. That it's just to the best of my knowledge, it's just somebody's version of it. They want to turn that into attempted murder as well. Every single sniper in the platoon said he was not a good sniper, Agent Warpinski told the court. The chief was hard on his platoon, investigators said, berating and punishing SEALs who he thought were not aggressive enough. Chief Gallagher's lawyers said that hard feelings in the platoon over his actions led to some SEALs to concoct stories in hope of forcing him from command. In May 2017, Iraqi forces captured an enemy fighter who had been wounded in an airstrike. Video images show the bleeding fighter, who was thought to be between 12 and 17, being brought to the SEAL platoon on the hood of a truck, and Chief Gallagher and others cutting away his clothing to give medical aid. Photos of the fighter viewed by the New York Times appear to show that the medics had put tubes used to treat a collapsed lung in his side and cut emergency airways to his throat. Okay, so photos of the fighter viewed by the New York Times appear to show that medics had put tubes used to treat a collapsed lung in his side and cut an emergency airway in his throat. Navy investigators that one SEAL medic was kneeling over the fighter's head, treating him, when Chief Gallagher walked up and without saying a word, took out a handmade knife and stabbed the teenager several times in the neck and side. Investigators said 2 other SEALs gave similar accounts. Members of the platoon then posed for photos with Chief Gallagher as he held the teenager's head up and held the teenager's head by the hair with one hand and held his knife in the other. Photos show Chief Gallagher then raising his right hand to perform a re-enlistment ceremony over the dead body while another SEAL member holds an American flag. Now, obviously, that's regrettable. Very regrettable. But in my opinion, and I was just reading this for the first time in the New York Times piece. I mean, this New York Times, you got to have a subscription. So I'm over at Safari or whatever it is, the Apple version of, Chrome and so forth. But I hadn't read that before over at the Navy Times and the Business Insider, which does a pretty good description of everything that was testified in at the trial. The Navy, but that to me, even if he did it multiple times, even though he didn't just do it one here and one there, he was probably trying to open an air passage. And that's what it sounds. And he's not, they're in war, and and time is everything. And it's not like he's worried about leaving, scar marks on this kid. He's trying to save his life, and he's just being, he's just making the decision that other people don't want to make and just doing it. Boom, 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 trying to free open an air passage. That's what it sounds like to me. It really does. And then after the fact, the kid dies. And, where you're watching thousands and thousands and thousands of people killed and die all around you in war. And it's just war. So they take pictures of it and they say stupid things, or he does, and he says there's a re-enlistment ceremony over the dead body. But I think initially he was actually trying to save his life, I do. I believe him. All right, I'm literally, because that was the first time I was reading that, and I'm just thinking about it now. And even as I think about it more, I absolutely do not think he was executing him. No way. Absolutely don't think that. He's, the guy's dying. He can't breathe. And, you only have so much time when somebody's not breathing. The sand is going through the hourglass, and it's very short, and he's going to be dead any second. And he's just last-ditch effort trying to get him some air. And at that point, it doesn't matter of making a good incision. It's just like bang, 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 bang. Why do you think he stabs him in the side? If he's executing him, why isn't he just stabbing him straight through the chest or something? It's specifically to free an air passage in a very last-ditch effort to save his life. But by then, the kid's toast. He's dead because he never had a chance anyways, but it was just an effort to save his life. I do not believe he executed him. No way. I don't believe it. I mean, I wasn't even, after reading that, I believe him more, for sure. Mr. Stackhouse, the defense attorney, said the teenager had probably died of serious injuries he suffered in the airstrike and that no evidence has been offered showing any stab wounds. As for the photos taken afterward, posing with the body, Mr. Stackhouse said, these types of pictures are not unique. They've been in every every Iraq case I've ever done. And that's the other thing is, it's interesting, the Warpinski, the special investigator for the Navy Criminal Investigative Unit, he didn't take the phones of all the other soldiers, including the ones that are making some of these eyewitness accounts. And basically the implication by Stackhouse, because he was asked that by Stackhouse, did you take the phones of all the other soldiers? The implication is they got pictures on their phones too. I mean, they're in war, So investigators say several SEALs and the platoon spoke to commanders about the episode, but that no action was taken. Some of them reported to higher leadership in December 2017, again in April. In September, when the Navy became aware of what prosecutors said were efforts by the chief to intimidate witnesses, he was arrested and put in pretrial confinement. Does the public still believe we are good guys because Chief Gallagher decided to act like the monster the terrorists accuse us of being, he said. He handed ISIS propaganda manna from heaven. His actions are everything ISIS says we are. I don't know what that is. In a hearing Thursday, that's the prosecutor. It's the prosecutor. Doesn't matter. So he was part of Navy SEAL 7. There's 8 teams total. I didn't know this, and he was named top platoon commander of SEAL Team 7, which is a special. They're all different, as I understand it. And he's the special SEAL Team 7 is the special warfare unit, better known as ST7. That's pretty much the story there. I mean, I could reread through this again, but I don't think I need to. But they believe it's going to trial, to a full court-martial trial where he could spend the rest of his life in prison. I don't know, man. I don't know. But if we're, dudes that do eight tours of duty. His father was a West Point graduate, dedicated his whole life to serving the country. And I'm not sure, I mean, why would he do that right in front of everybody? It doesn't make sense to me. That's the end of this video for now. Thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Give me a like down below, and I will see you in the next video. Later, man.